You're listening to Drummer Daily, the daily podcast just for drummers, and it's just for drummers who are serious about creating great music. We don't show off, we don't get flashy, we create great music with others. Hey there, welcome back to Drummer Daily. I'm happy you've joined me again. I am so sorry, I might have missed you, or you might have missed me. I definitely missed you. But you might have missed me as well over the last couple of days. Don't have a good excuse for why I didn't post a podcast. It just didn't happen. But now I am back in the swing of things. I'm actually, as I'm recording this, I'm taking some drums back to my studio. So I'm kind of walking around. I feel like about half the time that I do this podcast, I'm out of breath when I'm recording it because there's a lot of stairs in my house and up and down to get, it's up and down all the time to get these drums either packed up or set back up or whatever. So anyway, I'm so happy you're here and I apologize for not podcasting over these last couple of days, but I'm back now. So today I wanted to tell you about 3 different people that I was kind of aware of when I was a child, and I became aware of them at different times. And they're gonna kind of probably seem a little unrelated, at least at first, until I kind of explain what they have in common. So the 3 people, I'll just tell you them in order. I won't spoil it for you. I'm gonna tell you them as I go through this. So the first person that that I'm gonna talk about is a plumber. And so, when I was a kid, if the sink, the pipes were leaking or something happened somewhere and we couldn't fix it ourselves, my family you call a plumber and the plumber would show up. And as a little kid, it's cool. You see a guy come into your house, he's got all these really cool tools and can fix this stuff that you maybe don't, you'll look around your pipes at your house much. So you kind of get this peek into a different world. And this guy comes in and does all this stuff you don't understand, but it seems really cool as a kid. So, the plumber leaves and I asked my parents, oh, I want to do that when I grow up. So how do I do that? How can I be a plumber? And they would say something, like, graduate high school and then go to a trade school maybe for a couple of years or however that works. And then, I think the path is you get an apprenticeship, with another plumber, and you kind of learn the ropes, and then you get to become your own, work for yourself, become a plumber, or start your own plumbing business, or however you want to do it. But you kind of learn the ropes for a while, and then you do it. So there's a pretty clear path to becoming a plumber if that's what I wanted to do. And then a little bit later, when I got a little older, I started watching TV and started seeing basketball players, and of course, just like everyone else, Michael Jordan was the epitome. That he is the top guy in basketball. And so, I look at that and that he seemed so cool. I was like, I want to do that, and I think it was around the time of like the Dream Team, Team USA. So you had Michael Jordan and Patrick Ewing and I'm trying to think of who else was who's all around the same time. David Robinson and John Stockton, Karl Malone, all those guys. Anyway, I'd see these guys on TV and I'd go to my parents and I'd say, hey, well, I want to be a basketball player. How can I be a basketball player? And they'd say, well, it's really hard, but what you should probably do is start playing basketball now. As a kid, which I did do that. I no joke, I did play basketball for 1 year. I think I was maybe 7 years old or so. Played for 1 year, like the YMCA league or something, and I scored, throughout the whole season, I scored a total of 0 points the whole game, or the whole season. So it wasn't in the cards for me, but they said, so you start playing basketball now, you keep working at it, then maybe, eventually when you get older, if you're good enough, you could try out and hopefully make your high school team. And then if you're really good there, you might get offered a college scholarship. And if you do that, then maybe you'll get drafted, you get noticed, and if you're good enough there, you get drafted by the NBA, you get noticed by an NBA team, you get drafted. And eventually, if you work hard enough there, and you're good enough, then you might get a chance to play, actually start a game or play in a game, and then you'll be an NBA player. You just got to prove yourself, and you can do it. Well, they also said, maybe you're not. They never would discourage me, but they'd be like, oh, you might need to be a little taller to really do that. In which case, I'd say, well, what about Muggsy Bogues? He's like, I think he was 5'3", and they're like, good point. So maybe that the height doesn't matter. Anyway, but it might have seemed hard, but I may have, after hearing all of that, may have thought, well, you know what, that I understand now, but that doesn't sound like something I want to do, or maybe it does. But either way, I knew the path, and I made the choice. But then later on, a little older, or maybe around the same time, I happened to see like a Michael Jackson concert special on TV. And I saw Michael Jackson, and I was like, I saw the drummer, and I was already playing drums at the time, and I was like, man, that guy has got the coolest gig in the world, playing for sold out stadiums and all this stuff. I want to be that guy. So I said, Mom and Dad, how can I become like Ricky Lawson? That's the guy's name, Ricky Lawson, the drummer for Michael Jackson. How can I become like Ricky Lawson? And the problem is that most people in everyday life don't know much about professional musicians. There's not many stories on TV about professional musicians. You're not watching Monday Night Concert on ESPN or whatever. You're watching Monday Night Football. So about athletes. You'll get all these stories about athletes, but you're not really getting much information about musicians. And so they might have said, try to be the best drummer you can and get really lucky. Or they might have just said, I don't know. I don't know what that's like, but you could look into it and you can find out on your own. And so that's what I did. And so I'd start reading magazines, like drum magazines, and nowadays, I would maybe look at YouTube or do something like that. What I discovered about professional musicians and professional drummers is that most of them in their situation where they were at the moment when they were getting interviewed, they actually have no idea. They have no idea how they became a professional drummer. Because they all said, I got really lucky. And I just want to say this, if you are someone who is in that situation, if you became a professional drummer and you're just living the good life, so to speak, musically speaking, you probably don't take much time to be very introspective and kind of really look back and really examine why it is that you became, or how it is you became a professional drummer. And these guys don't. When they got interviewed, they would just say, well, I worked really hard and developed all my chops, and then I got really lucky. And I didn't accept that. When that was the story I was getting, I thought, well, I know that I naturally am probably not the best drummer in the world. And I don't believe in leaving my dream up to luck. I'm not going to hope that I get lucky in order to make this thing happen. And my question really was, well, if it's not up to luck to become a plumber or even a professional basketball player, why is it any different for drummers? And the answer is, it is not any different than becoming a professional athlete or becoming a plumber or anything else. There is a clear path. Most people just don't recognize it when they're in the middle of it. And in a situation even like, with me, the first time I got a professional gig, I thought I had gotten really lucky. It wasn't until much later that I realized that I was doing a certain set of things that literally every other professional drummer and every pro musician that I would come to know later, I was doing the same things all of those people had done as well. I just didn't know that I was doing them. So in a way I was lucky, but I was lucky that I was doing the right things. I didn't get lucky in order to get the gig. I got lucky that I had no idea what I was doing and I still did the right things. But that doesn't mean that you have to be lucky in order to do those things. In fact, I believe, and I actually am living proof of this, that you can do those same things on purpose and actually get a gig as a professional drummer, actually become a professional drummer. You just have to do those things. And I just want to say that, that it's not no one who's really successful a lot of people who are really successful, they don't necessarily know why they got there. They can't connect all the dots. And I'm definitely not going to say that even I can connect all the dots behind what happened, but I can say that in getting to know a lot of professional musicians as friends, I'm able to identify traits and qualities and things that they do regularly that actually contribute to them being successful in the music business. And by having that outside perspective on who they are and what they do, as musicians and what they focus on and what things they do focus on in their playing, for example, I'm able to identify those same traits in myself and realize, you know what, we all kind of follow the same path. And so what are those? What is that path? What does that look like? Well, it involves a few different things, and there's a lot of detail behind it. So I'm going to tell you the 4 basic ideas. I've talked about this before, but I don't want this to be the end of the conversation, because I can tell you right now that if you don't know the specifics behind each of these, it's not really gonna work for you. But we have to focus equally on our playing, the sound of our drums, our relationships with other people, including other musicians and producers and people who hire, and our money and how we handle our business. I call this the pro musicians quadrant, but that's a little bit nerdy sounding. But really the reality is there are 4 big core components to being a professional drummer, and doing the right sets of things in each of those areas is what will virtually guarantee you becoming a professional drummer, if that's what you want to do. Now, I'm going to do, I'm not ready to announce the date yet, but I'm finishing up the last little bit of visuals for it. But I'm going to do a live masterclass for free, by the way, coming up soon. And when the time comes, I definitely will invite you to come join me on that. And I'm going to walk through way more detail around this idea of this path and how to do it, and basically also show you why you have no excuse not to do this. If you want to be a professional drummer, why you have no excuse for not doing what I'm going to outline for you here. So if you don't want to make excuses anymore about not being a pro drummer, not making things happen, then join me in this masterclass. It's coming up soon. I can't wait to share it for you. I'm not trying to be a tease about this. There's so much detail. I actually went through it all yesterday, and it actually took me a very long time as far as I went through my presentation and talked through all my points, kind of rehearsed it all, and it was almost 2 hours of content, of really rich content around becoming a pro drummer and how to make that happen. So I definitely won't take 2 hours here on the podcast to explain it all. But I just want you to be encouraged and think about this, that there really is a distinct path towards becoming a pro drummer, and it's something that you can follow. And if you choose to engage with this a little bit more, you'll have no excuse for not doing this and actually making this dream come true. It really is possible, and I believe you can do it. All right, thanks for joining me in this podcast. Bye for now.